Hello and welcome to Qtr Time podcast in partnership with Carbon Jacked. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P. And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed.
We're delighted to say that this series of Qtr Time podcasts is supported by Carbon Jacked, an environmental startup that helps you combat climate change.
They are an awesome company that provide monthly memberships which plant trees, support epic climate projects, and help you to reduce your carbon footprint.
Memberships start from just £2.50 per month, so you can help save the planet for less than a cup of coffee.
Signing up is super easy. Go to carbonjacked.com and enter NetballPod for a huge 30% off. The link is in our show notes. Go check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of Qtr Time podcast. We have just 3 rounds left of the Vitality Netball Superleague regular season. I don't know where the time's gone. I know we say this every week, but seriously, where has the time gone? Things are getting juicy in the Super League. 2 games this round decided by 1 goal. And a bit of a shock upset as well, I think it's fair to say. So, yeah, we'll come on to that. So tell us, Luce, what's happening on the show today?
So we're going to start off with a recap of the news in the world of netball before moving on to our 3-word summaries of round 17 of the Vitality Netball Superleague, as well, of course, our favourites, game of the round and player of the round. Our special guest today is the Roses Academy head coach, Sheonah Forbes, who we are chatting to all about the England performance pathway. There is so much to unpack in this. We cover everything from school netball, barriers to entry and participation, the support available for our young athletes, early specialisation, and of course the recent announcement of the Roses Futures athletes. This is honestly a must listen to any young aspiring netballers, or actually even if you're like a parent, guardian or a coach. There's so much to gain from this. Sheonah's insight into the pathway system is super valuable and really, really informative.
Yeah, I think this is an episode where I learned so much, maybe more so than any other episode, about the process and the support for our young athletes as well. So super, really looking forward to this one. Firstly, then, on to the news. So, a bit of a shock announcement this week that Tracy Robinson will be leaving the Leeds Rhinos after this year. I have to say, I knew she was coming only for 1 year to try it out, but then, this is confirmation that she will not be returning. Seems to be a visa issue that's been going on. So, yeah, 3 Super League teams with head coach vacancies now. So exciting.
Yeah, I think it could look like a very different league next season, like depending on what coaches step up into these roles. If we're bringing in international coaches to fill these positions, that will bring a very different flavour to the league, different practices, different cultures. It's potentially really, really exciting, but mildly concerning that we've got so many head coaches stepping down. I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be interesting to see if we do get those international coaches, who they bring with them and what players they decide to recruit. And hopefully Rhinos will have a better lead in this time if they can start, recruiting now for their new coach next year rather than sort of later down the line.
Yeah, I'd love for Maggie Birkinshaw to take that head coach role. But
yeah, me too.
She's such an awesome coach, great personality. The players love her. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. And secondly, in terms of news, just a reminder to catch up on our Twitter space if you haven't already. We had an amazing chat with Pam Cookie, Camilla Buchanan and Karen Gregg, as well as loads of members of the netball family who tuned in to talk about the Roses program selection. So do take a listen and catch up on that. And it's available as a bonus episode in all the usual places.
Yeah, so many hits on that. It's literally thousands of people tuned into that. It's incredible.
Yeah, I was kind of bamboozled. I was like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Next up, onto our 3-word summaries. So take it away, Luce.
So first up for the round was Rhinos versus Storm. Really close game. Rhinos coming away with a 1-goal win, 49-48. And I've gone for a total ripper. I would have loved to have been in the arena in Sheffield for this one. Rhinos fully stole the game out of Storm's lap by winning the final quarter 14-10. Storm led for the majority of the game despite having 20 unforced errors to Rhinos 10.
Wow.
The shooting percentage was down for Rhinos with 13 missed shots compared to Storm's 3, but they still managed to sneak this one over the line. Credit has to be given to the immense work rate of Amelia Hall, who had a whopping 30 feeds, which is the highest of anyone of this round, and I think potentially even up there for the highest we've seen this season.
Yeah, for sure. Next up on Saturday, we had Dragons versus Stars, with Dragons taking the win 57-51. And I said what we expected. Mm-hmm. Based on the ladder positioning, this was always going to be a close one, and it was fairly even until a 17-7 third quarter in favour of Dragons gave them the edge. It was a highly penalised game, 68 to Dragons, 57 to Stars, and Green Knoll had the most on court with 26. Although she also had 2 rebounds, 2 intercepts, 5 deflections and 6 turnovers. So I don't think that Danny Titmus-Morris is going to be too displeased with her. In terms of Stars, they had no answers for the triple R combo, Rowe, Radaman, Rudland. And they put... Yeah, do you like that?
I love that.
And they put 3 different GDs on Radaman to try and do something about her, but to no avail. Dragons have beaten Stars twice this season and now sit in 10th place on the ladder.
First up on Sunday was Sirens versus Mavericks with a shock result. No offence to Sirens, but they took the win 57-50. And I've gone for dropped a bombshell.
Yeah,
I did not see this one coming, I have to admit.
Me neither.
And I mean, zero offence to Sirens, but I did not see that come in. This was a must-win game for Mavs, but it just seems like it wasn't clicking for them, despite the return of Venter and with Sirens being without Emma Barry in that attacking end. You know, she's such a target, so important to them. Kadeen Corbin had more penalties against her than Quashie in goalkeeper, which I find baffling. And we actually had more penalties than goals from her as well, but she did put in a shift defensively with 2 intercepts, 3 deflections and 2 turnovers in goal attack. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Defensively, Sirens had a field day by the sounds of it. The newly coined Towerly.
Towerly.
I don't know where I got that from. I think someone on Sirens tweeted that. Towerly had a combined 9 intercepts, 6 deflections and 13 turnovers. That's Tuera, Vincumbo and Emily Nicol for anyone who hasn't worked that out. Mavs honestly just love to make life difficult for themselves. They've now lost 4 games in a row and have a killer run-in to the end of the season with Storm, Thunder, Rhinos and Bath still to go. They do this every season. Yikes. I don't get it.
Oh no, that is a tough run-in, you know.
Yeah, super tough.
Wow. Next up on Sunday, we had Rhinos versus Thunder, with Thunder taking a massive win, 84-49. And for this one, I said, almost an annihilation.
Almost.
Yeah. I thought Thunder would win this game, but maybe not by 35 goals.
Yeah.
When I calculated that, I actually had to do a double check because I was like, well, surely it can't be that much. 35 goal margin. Thunder didn't score below 20 in a single quarter, and the highest quarter score from Rhinos was 14. Rhinos also had 17 unforced errors, which you just can't do against a near clinical Thunder side, who just had 4, by the way. And unfortunately for Rhinos, Berger was responsible for 7 of those alone. It was a casual 60 goals for Joyce and Vula and 10 turnovers for Almond. I just can't see a situation where these guys aren't in the final. For Rhinos, Oyasola stood out, fighting back after her non-selection for the Roses. She managed to get plenty of ball, 4 intercepts, 2 deflections, 5 turnovers, despite there being very little through-court defence from the middies. Sending our best wishes to Rebecca Airy, who was injured in this game. We really hope it's not too serious.
Yeah, I mean... I don't even know what to say about that game, to be honest. Maybe the less said, the better. First up on Monday, this was a cracker. Lightning versus Bath, with Lightning taking a good win, 52-46. And I've gone for settle in attack. There were, you're going to love this, Luce, there were so many roses on court in this one that it could have been mistaken for the Chelsea Flower Show. I'm so lame. The Lightning, okay, let's move on from that. From Lightning, once they got going in attack, they were pretty deadly despite a really tenacious Bath defence. The errors and hesitancy just crept in for Bath, particularly for Kirsty Harris, who had 6 unforced errors in the first half, which just put Bath on the back foot and meant that Lightning were able to do the double on them in a season for the first time since 2017.
Oh, wow. That's a great start.
Thanks, Pan Cookie.
And to round off round 17, we had Dragons versus Wasps, with Wasps taking the win 46-45. And I said joy and devastation. A second game of the weekend was decided by just 1 goal, with Wasps winning the first and last quarter to sneak away with 3 points on this occasion. Wasps have never lost to Dragons since starting in the Super League, and although Dragons came close, it wasn't to be on this occasion. Wasps are now back in the top 8, and they've overtaken Sirens, who they'll play in round 20 in what could be a Fast Fives eligibility decider.
Ooh.
Exciting. Dragons will face Bath, Sirens and Storm, and the way they've been playing recently, they'll be looking to take some scalps for sure.
Yeah, I've got a feeling about that Storm game,
Do you think?
Yeah. We'll see. I've got a good feeling about it, though.
Moving on to our game of the round. So, Luce, which one have we gone for this week?
So it comes as a surprise to exactly nobody that we've gone for Lightning versus Bath.
We're so predictable, honestly.
Yeah,
we should push the boat out more. Yeah.
There was just so much on the line for Bath in this game in terms of their top 4 hopes. As we mentioned in the summary, it was just a series of individual errors for Bath and that attack end again that just let them down. There was misconnections, too much predictability. I think people have just really done their homework on Border and SDL, and they just can't find a way out of it now. It's so frustrating to see that attack line perform so poorly. Like, they were up by 4 at one point and they just squandered the lead, but there's so much talent there. It's just really frustrating. And I think, with the caliber of players they've got, it should be working, and it just isn't. Defensively, there's no denying that they are up there with some of the best in the league. And, I said a few episodes ago, I described Layla Guskov as the best goal defence in the world. I think it was me who said that. And I think her performance over the last few rounds is just evident of that. It's proof is in the pudding when it comes to Layla. She had 2 rebounds, 5 intercepts, 4 deflections and 8 turnovers. Like, she was incredible.
Yeah, I loved what she put out there. And I just think that with all those defensive stats coming from Bath, like they led in every defensive stat in this game, and they still lost by 6 goals.
Oh,
I just don't understand that. And Lightning actually had double the number of missed shots than Bath, and they had 12. But, they just had fewer unforced errors, and their attack was way more slick.
Yeah, I think, speaking of Lightning, they did have a bit of a shaky start. And I think it's fair to say it took a little while to properly settle into the game. But by the third quarter, they'd really found their flow a lot more. I think they're the most lethal when they use that speed of ball and the drive of Joseph in particular. I think a few of the times where they did get caught out was where they had to reset onto the transverse line, which gave Bath time to set up. So when they're using that speed, they're practically unstoppable. I think if you bear in mind as well that they've been without Mary Trollock since round 11, they're without Cobden in this game, and they were without Panagari for half of the game. Like, that's 3 major players. They just seem like such a tight ship that no matter who's out, any one of their players can just step up. And I think that was personified by the incredible Emma Thacker as well.
Well, it's funny you mention Emma Thacker, because moving on to our player of the round in a very smooth segue, I am officially declaring the Emma Thacker fan club open. I will be taking on all the roles: president, CEO. No other applications will be taken, because I am obsessed with this kid. She is incredible. This was a sensational performance from her, who is obviously, we know she's just been selected for the Roses Futures program.
Yeah.
This is probably going to make you feel sick, Liz, but she was born in 2003 and she is just 18 years old. And this was her first start in a VNSL game, and she got player of the match, deservedly so. She put up 28 goals, which is a hell of a shift in goal attack, 4 more goals than Ella Clark, who was playing goal shooter. I mean, watching her put up those mid to long range shots gave me baby Helen Houseby vibes. And then she got those intercepts in the mid-court during Qtr 3. And I was like, this is a born-again Helen Houseby if I ever saw one. I could not believe it. She is incredible.
Yeah, I'm completely obsessed. She was just beyond sensational. And I think for your first starting position in a Super League game to perform like that, I mean, that is a sign of things to come. And Bath just literally had no answers for her. But when you consider the fact that she was up against Layla Guskov, who, you know, let's not forget, starting goal defence for England, Layla Guskov, you just have to think that there's no denying this is a star in the making. Yeah. She was such a puppet in the post-match interview as well. Like, there is just so much to love about her. Obsessed.
Yeah, absolutely. She's super tall. She's so athletic. She's just got an amazing future ahead of her. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah. And I think as well, actually, the way that she was, I was a bit disappointed in Ella Clark's performance in that game. I think where Emma Thacker stepped up, Ella didn't step up. Like she wasn't doing enough in the circle for me. She wasn't fighting to make herself available. She allowed Emma to take on a lot more pressure. And I think, you know, bearing how green she is, how young she is, I was a little bit disappointed in that, but she stood up to it.
I think it was actually the other way. I think Ella Clark was having an off day and Emma went, right then. You know?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I wanted Ella to step up and actually own that space a bit more as the senior player in there, and she didn't. But then again, she didn't need to. Emma was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll do that. No problems."
Yeah, it was brilliant. Absolutely great performance.
For sure. Coming up after the break, we hear from Rose's Academy head coach Sheonah Forbes all about the England performance pathway.
Join the likes of Tamsin Greenway, Gia Ebenethi and us to become a Carbon Jacked member and combat climate change. It's just £2.50 per month and you'd be doing your bit and helping to protect the planet.
We really think that netballers can make a difference, and so do Carbon Jacked. That's why they support this podcast. They're helping England Netball plant trees for goals scored in the Vitality Netball Superleague and are Netball Scotland's sustainability partner.
Go to carbonjack.com to become a member today and use NetballPod for 30% off. Link is in the show notes.
It is fantastic to welcome the Rose's Academy head coach, Sheonah Forbes, onto the pod. Welcome, Sheonah.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on. First of all, just to touch on the Roses Futures announcement last week, how are you feeling about the quality and the depth in the England programme from the Futures perspective? It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm really excited actually that as England Netball, we've been able to expand the programme. And I guess we recognise that there was a need, you know, we talk about this Roses Ready. Yeah. So 2023 World Cup and beyond. So I'm actually really excited that we've just been able to expand the programme. The programme looks great. I'm leading the programme myself. So yeah, really excited. And obviously there was so much talent out there this year in the VNSL, isn't there? And NPL. So many players to pick from, you know, for those selectors. I think it was quite a bit of a big headache. I know there's lots of talk around positions and stuff, but the people that are in it, I'm just really excited to get hold of them, get them in, see what they can do and see how they can grow over the next, 12, 18 months and beyond. So yeah, super excited.
Yeah, well, we can't wait. We just thought the quality and the depth in there was incredible, particularly in the attacking end. It's just such an exciting time.
There's a lot of shooters in there as well, and there's a lot of players that have come through the academy or the under-21 programme, and there's some wild cards, as I put it, that have come in out of nowhere, which is great because that's what you want from a programme, for it to be open and transparent, really. So like Taylor, for example, I've known her for a long time. What a great example that is. And Lois Pearson at Manchester Thunder. So two great additions there as well.
Yeah, well, watch this space. Yes. So we wanted to chat to you today all about the England performance pathway. We've been wanting to do an episode on this for quite some time now, and we thought who better to give us all the info that we need than you, seeing as you have been the Roses Academy head coach since 2014 and obviously have a huge level of insight into this key area. There's so much to unpack here that we'll be doing a separate episode on the NPL and Prem League specifically. So this is more about the England pathway. So to start with, we thought we'd take a look at how players get into netball in the first place, which is usually through playing for their schools. we know that there's a considerable disparity between the resources for sport which are available at independent schools versus state schools. An inquiry into the school sports by Ofsted revealed that there are unacceptable discrepancies between the number of state and independent schools competing in sports at an elite level. So how does this play out in netball, and what can be done to address the disparity to ensure that we have a level playing field no matter what type of school they go to?
Yeah, I mean, what a massive question you've just given, Lucy.
Yeah.
Massive can of worms this is, isn't it? I think there's a couple of things for me here. Yes, the government have been putting more money currently, just coming out of COVID, into schools in general for them to use what they call PPE, even in primary schools. That's a massive thing. I've got 3 sons myself, got 2 in the primary school. It's how those schools use that money. So it's very different across the country and across the regions, first and foremost. And you can see that. I think in the independent and state schools, the biggest thing is the amount of hours that they spend in PE is a key thing, even on the curriculum. So I think the key thing is just that young people are getting access to exercise generally during the week. And, it doesn't matter what sport that is, first and foremost. It could be, netball or any other sport, as long as they're getting those opportunities. If we go into netball, then yes, there is a bit of a disparity there. And there are some more independent schools in some areas than others. And we see that as we look through the franchises, or when we'll come on to like the DICE program is what we have. So yes, I think the key thing for me as well is the club structure. And there are some fantastic people out there that are teachers, and they're really, really good at getting those kids involved, kids engaged in their schools, and actually, putting them through our pathways into local clubs, and ultimately opportunities where franchises or whoever may run camps and things like that. So some fantastic people out there, and some really good local infrastructure with our clubs. And sometimes I think that gets lost in our conversations, but there are a lot of clubs out there doing some great work with youth sport trust initiatives, local school games where we find players. I remember Liv Tasheen's come from that avenue, finding her in school games. So there's some great examples and some best practice things there. And I think perhaps it's key for us to put an eye on those best practice areas and actually see what those clubs and things are doing for those, areas of low disadvantage or those kids in state schools. I think my other thing here is for all of us to remember that if a young person hasn't had so many experiences, that we have to remember that. And they may be a late developer coming through our pathway. And I've seen many of those as well.
Yeah. No, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and it is the disparity between what the independent schools are able to offer. They obviously got much more in terms of facilities, in terms of dedication.
Some of them are amazing. International standard stuff. Yeah, I've been seeing.
Yeah. 100%. And we sort of touched on this with Dan Laverpour in season 1 last year from a strength and conditioning perspective. But, some independent schools will have like strength and conditioning coaches, and then they'll have like games coaches, like netball coaches, rugby coaches, and then they'll have PE teachers on top of that. So it's the quality and the provision just varies so wildly. And there was a quote from Sir Michael Wilshaw in an article from The Guardian, who is the Chief Inspector of Schools, who said that head teachers who treat competitive sport with suspicion or as an optional extra are not only denying youngsters the clear dividends that come with encouraging them to compete, but they're also cementing the social inequality that holds our nation back. And I think with the greater emphasis within private schools that sport can be a priority, there's more opportunities carved out for them. But outside of it being a career to become an athlete, there's also a number of other benefits like teamwork, discipline, being competitive, and all of that kind of builds to help our youngsters in later life. Do you think that as an NGB, or even to partner with other NGBs, that we should be lobbying the government to increase the sort of base amount of time spent on PE within the national curriculum?
Yeah, 100%. And I know internally that's something that we've been looking into and trying to do with other sports. And there's a group of sports as a collective that discuss it internally all the time with Sport England, Youth Sport Trust, those kind of governing bodies. And I think first and foremost is the mental health aspect as well, which has been massive coming out of COVID. It's opened everybody's eyes, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, COVID, not a great thing all in all. At least it's opened our eyes to those topics that need to be discussed and need to be moving forward. I think the other thing here is to remember that as young people, there's lots of paths that they choose. And we need to remember about learning and like loving the game, loving sport, and the benefits of it. And I think that's one of our key things that we hold is love the game, like learn it and love it. And if we can install that and that kind of like values within young people, then I guess all these kind of avenues and opportunities don't really matter, because they'll still get there, they'll still thrive. Then, you know, they still might become a doctor, but they've learned all those values in between. So yes, lobbying to the government is very, very important. And I think as individuals, we just got those accountabilities to keep learning and inspiring those young people.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the benefits of taking part in competitive sport to your wider life in general are just incredible.
Yeah.
And I think if we stick on the schools subject, that the national schools competition is a vital part of the netball calendar for aspiring youngsters. And given what we've just mentioned, it's unsurprising that the private schools are heavily represented in all age groups. There's a lovely lady called Catherine on Twitter who goes by the username Netball Cricket Netball. Good to see netball in there twice. Yeah. She did some research on this and found that in the 2022 National Schools Competition finals, state schools made up to 11% of under 14 teams and 28% of both the under 16 and the under 19 teams. So private schools also have their own separate netball competition, whereas the state schools only have this joint competition that's open to both state and independent. So what more could or should be done to provide greater opportunities for state school athletes specifically?
Yeah, I think, again, it just comes down to the awareness piece. So those teachers, upskilling those to become like confident people, confident coaches first and foremost. I just had a conversation last night actually with someone who I play netball with, who is a teacher in a state school, and she's trying so hard to get these kids engaged, what opportunities. And it's actually for them understanding how they can use England Netball as a governing body also. So us going to them and them coming to us and actually knowing that, oh, there's a website. Oh, what's an NGO? Oh, okay. How can I use them to my advantage? So there's so much more that can be done in that respect for them to understand what resources are available first and foremost, and to empower them to then be able to get a team together and work with them, you know, year on year. They might start as year sevens and progress through. I think there's also another bit with the area that themselves is, you know, I'm always an advocate of a buddy system. You know, why can't an independent school buddy up a state school system? Come to that school, come to that independent school. Let's do some more together and really empower that area, because ultimately that's what it'll be about. So I'm first, buddy system, absolutely. But there's so much to this subject, you know, like it's key, but working together is foremost, is like one of my main values. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting what you're saying there about building those connections, not only between the schools and England Netball, but also kind of inter-school connections as well. I think that's really, really interesting and definitely something it's worth exploring and keeping in mind. And you mentioned the DICE program just earlier, and we know a lot of the work that you do is around that program. So for anyone who doesn't know, can you tell us a bit about what the program is about and some of those key aims?
Yeah, okay. So DICE is an acronym. It's always forever changing, but in this world, it means Diploma in Sporting Excellence. So it's a level 3 qualification, which is the equivalent to an A level. And it actually gives the girls that complete it 64 UCAS points. So for them, when they choose it, it's actually quite a bonus. And it's also a bit of fun because they get to play netball and learn and train at Loughborough University. So Loughborough College is the body, if you like, where the girls go and do all the subjects, so nutrition, injury management, finance. So there's quite an array of subjects that they get to learn about, which from all the feedback they absolutely love. I know that one athlete, for example, had said without the DICE program, she would never have sorted out her finances before going to uni. You know, budgeting in a supermarket is pretty hard in year one when you've not used to that and relied on mum and dad or guardian, whoever. And the other thing was just about actually learning to meet new people and those extra social skills by going away from home, staying overnight, meeting new people from lots of different areas. And that social network was also really key. I think with the DICE program, one of the main things is the eligibility criteria. It is talked about. So traditionally, the franchises could nominate an athlete who was going into year 12. There's 65 places in total. So each franchise would get 6 places and the others would be nominated through us. But this year and last year, Sport England changed the criteria to those that couldn't be eligible were those that were in those independent schools and didn't have 50% or more scholarship or bursary. So they changed that, and we did see a change in the athletes coming through, in that some franchises and some of their areas were like, oh, we don't have as many athletes now, Okay, so it opened everybody's eyes up at that point in the change. But it's an excellent program. I absolutely love it. We get to see them 3 times a year, and I've seen them progress actually through their VNSL then as they've gone up the ladder and to their university choice, should those UCAS points been so vital for them.
Yeah, so 65 places for netball in total. That's really fascinating. I suppose when you think about the number of people who would make use of that program and would really benefit from it, it's almost a drop in the ocean, I suppose. What other funding avenues exist for those players who might miss out on opportunities otherwise?
Yeah, and this again is a bit of an awareness piece. There is lots of funding pots out there. You just have to know about them. So it could be actually your local like the netball club that you're in. They could have a funding pot that could help you, to your county netball association, to actually the local sport body that is there. For example, London Sport, or people like that actually have lots of funding pots there as well. So that is quite a big one, Lucy, but it's just the awareness and actually asking and finding it. I am finding more and more that these young athletes or young people are getting sponsored by Gilbert, those kind of sporting bodies that we have, which is excellent. And it's just that then they have to be, I guess, on the pathway to be recognised, to be, given those opportunities, but they are there.
Yeah, it's great to know that actually, that there are those opportunities. I suppose there could be a difficulty in terms of applying and going through that process. I imagine is a stressful kind of experience, but it's good that there's support available from counties and things like that. Following on from school, the next step in the pathway for young netball players is usually a club or a franchise. And we know that playing franchise netball in the pathways can be costly. And unfortunately, there's also some disparity across the different pathways around the country in terms of the resources they have available and the quality of coaching they're able to offer. So how does England Netball work with the franchises to build and develop their pathways and ensure that the standard is just as consistent as possible, regardless of where you live in the UK?
Yeah, again, great question. I think currently we're, as a governing body, we're going through a new adventure strategy. So for the next 10 years, we've got so many big ambitions. It's unreal. But yeah, there's a lot out there for that instance. And I guess what we're trying to do at the minute is review everything. So we've currently just gone through a county and what we're calling a player pathway review. So you've hit the nail on the head with this question. But as overall, I guess I work with the franchise pathway leads, and those people could be people that organise the pathway in general and try and find those funding, resources. It could be those that are working in the under 21-19 space. So working with those to know that actually what the delivery needs to look like on the ground, the areas that need to be worked on technically, tactically, physically, or, have that psychological edge. We talk about 4 pillars at the minute in the Roses development framework as well, which is also another avenue that we're working on that hopefully gives a guide to all those people contributing to those individuals as they go through the pathway. We're really working hard on that at the minute to try and get more resources out there for all coaches and individuals throughout the pathway. It's ever changing. Well, the game never changes, but, the environment and the landscape they're in is always changing. So as you said, yes, there's disparity in the financial element between franchises. That could be like a north and south actual divide there that we have in our country anyway. But also venues. Don't know whether you know this, but coming out of COVID, venues and booking venues and the price of it has just gone through the roof. So the franchises work really hard to subsidise what they can. They run camps to try and fund, there's all sponsorships, there's all sorts of things that they're trying to do behind the scene to help that factor. And I think the key thing here again is that if there are any athletes that, do have financial difficulties, that the franchises do help. It's not, they don't want to make it a barrier, but we do need to pay for those venues and things like that. So England Netball do put money in to help that, but ultimately, it's a sustainable thing that we want to try and grow. And ultimately, the VNSL, we want it to become professional, right? So that means that everything below it has got to try and move with it. So it's a big beast. It's, it's huge. It's forever changing, but it's just all a team together with us and the franchises to try and move it on together, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much potential and so much development or room for development within our sport across the board, whether it's
exciting. Yeah.
So exciting, yeah. But there is also a huge amount of work to do. In terms of that pathway, we know that most netball players have been playing since they were as young as, 8, 9 years old, but this isn't always the case. Mm-hmm. So how flexible is the pathway in terms of players who are entering sort of relatively late, for example, in their early 20s or maybe transitioning from another sport?
Yeah, really flexible. So I always talk about...
So it's not too late for me then? I could still play for England? Is that what we're saying?
Absolutely. Like, I've known people go from back to netball to local league to regional league netball, and that's that's still amazing for them. So we mustn't forget there's those other people around there that haven't played since school that if I wear, like, I've got my kit on round Tesco, so I go, is that England netball? Oh, I used to play. Like, remembering that there's the whole landscape piece there too. Yes, I always talk about a flex model, if I'm honest. So we talk open door all the time, and there is an open door in franchises. There really is. And, someone could come late from school in January, go through to a county and really, get progressed up the ladder if it's right for them. And I think that's the key thing is we talk about age and stage. Like I'd say like Jada Pekova, if I could use her, she's not going to mind. She did gymnastics coming through her younger life. I think she only started playing netball really when she was 14. Oh, wow. So we understand that, and we understand that she's got a great talent, right? What a jump she's got. But there's also some late development aspects there that we appreciate and we understand. And now look at her now, like really blooming through. So talking about a flex model, if we, rather than think about it as a closed circle, at times we can bend that circle, all right? And to let, there's certain things we can bend for. We have to allow for that flexibility, and everybody has to be on that same page of what flex might look like in your environment. But yes, I mean, look, even what Kerry Alman played for, and look at her longevity now. I know she's come through, from playing netball for a long time. She won't mind me saying that, but even getting onto England fairly late, it's great. So I'm a big advocate for it, but yeah, everyone having that understanding about that flex, I guess, and what that could look like, and not making it a barrier. If you do get that athlete come to the sports hall, let her in, and then find the right environment for her.
Yeah. And I think Danelle Wallum in Australia is a classic example of that. 28 and only just made the Australian Diamonds program now. Like that, that's sensational. What a story that is.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I think on the flip side of that, of the late bloomers, is almost the early specialisation. So there was a journal published in 2021 by Canadian researcher Alexandra Mosher, which said early specialisation among youth athletes is linked to negative consequences. One of the main concerns of early specialisation relates to injuries. Athletes who are highly specialised are at greater risk of serious overuse injuries and are more likely to report a previous overuse injury. In addition to these types of negative physical outcomes, there's also the concern about negative effects on psychological outcomes. For example, early specialisation is associated with psychological needs dissatisfaction and emotional exhaustion. And I think we often think that, if we're committing to one singular sport sooner rather than later, we kind of think that gives players more time to develop and increases their chances of success. But actually, this might not be the case. What's your take on the topic of early specialisation?
Again, another massive one here, isn't it? The early specialisation piece is really, really, really insightful in that I think traditionally, say in netball, we would have thought, skill-based, hammer those basics all the way through. Basics are key. At the end of the day, we pass, catch, throw, shoot, score, right? But I think my thing here is about loving the game. So that's like your game sense piece. Let's do more game invasion-based practices. Let's make sure that these kids coming through love it, know how to invade space, and that there's lots of kind of dual sports cross that with netball that are really, really crucial. So a lot of the girls that come through our system have played football, they've played those team sports, but also we're finding a lot of athletics and tennis. And the ones with tennis seems to be the defenders, FYI, and the badminton. Fumi was an excellent badminton player.
Oh, I knew I loved her. Badminton's my
that.
second sport. Oh.
And you can see her footwork even in tennis. And there's an athlete called Savannah Dadamaskal, plays for Manchester Thunder, excellent athlete. She's just got a scholarship to go to America actually to play tennis. But her footwork, you know, the chasse movement that she has in that circle is, you know, really, really good. So I think, I'm all for dual sports. I understand that there's a bit around loading and management of athletes. And that's the piece that often gets left out. For me. And, you know, what does that mean? Okay, so loading in a week, we give out some guidance on how many on-feet technicals should we be doing at that stage or age within the pathway. You know, when should we start doing S&C, strength and conditioning? Rest day. Everybody should be having a rest day in that week. That's super important for mind and body. And just all those little things. I think the other thing here is that I work in a space with some other coaches from other sports. We talk a lot about psychological load or cognitive load. And that also is what people say is like stress, I guess. So what is psychological load to you? Could it be just generally getting up in the morning? You know, we all know what stress that is can be on people. Is it going to school and all the homework they have to complete? That's a big weight in their mind. And sometimes when they come to training, they can't use the front of their mind, which, you know, is the place that we have the creativity. They can't use that in training. So how can we help and adapt our, you know, the way we're thinking in our practices to help them with that, to take off that burden of that load that they've got there? So, not sure I've really answered your question because it's a massive one. But I think key things for us is just making sure we understand the subjects that we're talking about too, and making sure that the person is at the forefront of everything we're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And this is why we've had to split this episode into two, because there is literally so much to unpack.
I know. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I completely agree. I think there's so many benefits to that sort of dual sport approach. And that's why I loved the London Pulse, the multi-sport program that they've got. You know, absolutely sensational, so much to learn. And I think if we're looking at the performance pathway in terms of what pinnacle events there are for these athletes, obviously the World Youth Cup is a massive one, and it was heartbreaking that it couldn't go ahead. Devastating. And, you know, as we said, this is a really key marker within their pathway. So how, with the cancellation, how did you work with this crop of players that were supposed to go on that to ensure that they still had the opportunity to grow and develop their netball despite the issues caused by the pandemic?
Yeah, and look, if anyone knows me, they know that I'll never, ever give up. So as soon as I heard, I was like, right, what are we doing next? I'm not letting these athletes have nothing. So I think what was really key was to make sure we could fund a program first and foremost, and we could keep an under 21 group together. And then it's what opportunities and exposures could we give them to ensure that they are, you know, feeling what international netball could be. So with that under 21 cohort, they stayed together for roughly 6 months. When we came out of COVID in the July, we had a selection. We had a group that came together. We got them opportunities to play against Jamaica, the Jamaican team, before the test series in November. God, it feels like ages ago now, but that was crucial for them because they were building up towards that. They trained and played alongside the Roses, and they played against some franchises. We also have good dialogue with Scotland and Wales and the other nations around us. We got them opportunities about that. And I think the key thing that really stands out for me was when we got the opportunity to play pre-Roses against the Knights and the Giants. So that was really key for me to set up for them, and fantastic from Lewis and Ryan. I think I'd got the okay, and within an hour we were all on a phone together and sorting it out. So that's really key that we've managed to get that. And I think it's come for fruition, the amount of them that I'm seeing in VNSL and actually coping really well, you know, psychologically, physically. I mean, last night, I know this goes out, but watching that Loughborough Lightning game last night and Emma Thacker just show her stuff for 60 minutes was so impressive. And I think for everyone out there to be aware that these youngsters are really coming through with fire in their belly, and they take all the opportunities and they understand the other bit when they don't get those opportunities too. So yeah, I'm really excited with that under 21 cohort that have come through. I really am. And I'm so thankful that you guys are getting to see them all.
Yeah. Oh, we absolutely love watching them. There's something so special about seeing a young talent break onto the scene. And we saw it with Fumi Fudoju last year and everything that's happened for her since then. But yeah, it's just incredible to see. And obviously we're so happy when those girls stay in the sport all the way up until, 21 and then go into the senior level. But obviously that isn't always the case. And we do lose some along the way. We found a report from Women in Sport published in March this year, which found that teenage girls experience sport and physical activity very differently to boys, with girls experiencing numerous and complex barriers to participation. And these included lack of self-belief, feeling judged, not feeling safe outdoors, or self-consciousness while on their periods. And those are just some of the reasons given for not wanting to participate. So what are the main barriers that you see in terms of girls dropping out of the elite netball pathway in their teenage years?
Yeah, I think it's all those things that you've just said, really. It's about not enough awareness around periods, definitely periods and self-belief. I think with all the conversations, and that's the key thing, is having conversations with young people so that they have the ability to learn how to articulate themselves and validate emotions is key. And, we're wearing many hats as adults to try and bring these young people along. We really are. So yeah, self-belief. And then another big thing I find is education around the stresses that they have with exams. It feels a lot more than, back when I did exams. It feels so much more heavier for them. And I say heavier in the way about cognitive load again, but it really does feel like that. They drop out a little bit due to exams, I must say. But then I think it's the conversation that I say, it's okay. The door isn't closed. You can come back in 6 months, just get this period done in the way that you need to do it. And if it's the understanding that if they can only go to one training every fortnight, they can only go to one training every fortnight, because that's the capacity that they've got right now. And that's okay. So yes, periods is a big thing. Social media is the other one that I'm finding that, we've got phones now. It's so accessible. Social media is just there, right? But again, there's no real education about that, is there? I say education, sorry, and there's a general term here, but we also try and do that in our pathway spaces. What does social media actually feel like for you? If you're getting negativity, it's okay. Don't worry about it. This is how to manage it. These are the avenues. If it gets to the extreme, this is where to go. And these are the processes. So yeah, there is a lot of things there for us to do. In terms of a governing body, I'm super excited about the partnership we have with the Well HQ. All the time I listen to Emma, for example, she's just so inspiring to me. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that about myself. So getting the access to those types of people and those types of organisations for younger and more out there, and the more we can do as a governing body to advocate that, the better. And I guess also I got someone called Stacey Copeland. I don't know if you know her. She used to be a boxer. She's on radio, in Manchester, Radio Manchester. She is so inspiring. She talks about, empowerment and parking your demons, just little tips like that, and light bulb moments for these young people. And I think the more of those types of people that are, had great experiences, can speak out loud, and we can, signpost, if you like, to listen to those people, the better.
I went to a webinar with Stacey Copeland from the Women's Sport Collective. Absolutely incredible. I came away from that session just almost like my body was tingling with excitement. It's so good. But I think what strikes me is just how, I'm finding this conversation so inspirational. I think how comprehensive our provision is for our pathway athletes is something that I wasn't really aware of. And it's so reassuring to know that we're looking after them as people as well as athletes. So I think that's incredible. Conscious of time, so before we move on to our rapid fire, I just got one more question. Obviously, the impact of winning the Commonwealth Games gold medal in 2018 was vast for our sport in terms of participation and whatnot. So over your tenure at England Netball, how has the growing professionalisation and the prestige of netball, including this Commonwealth Games win, impacted the pathway system? And how do you see this continuing to develop over the coming years?
Yeah, what an incredible 10 years we've had, right, already. And yes, the impact from the Commonwealth Games was absolutely huge. I think all of us, I should hope, knew where we were, how we reacted. I fell on my knees and I cried. Like, we've all got that experience now, and that's amazing. Even the World Youth Cup, having those big events in our country was huge. You know, we've got Birmingham this year again, and I believe having that impact in our actual country has been the catalyst. The World Cup in Liverpool was huge for that area. I mean, I think the amount of, or the numbers, like back to netball, and the amount of clubs that have come out of that has been through the roof, like a lot of records there. So in terms of participation, it's massive. In terms of inspiring people to book a sports hall, to advertise for people to come along is huge in itself, you know, those advocators. So yeah, I think on the pathway system itself, it's just given us more fuel to the fire, if I'm honest, to want to be better, to want to produce more, to want to inspire people to become technical officials, umpires and beyond. You know, that's another thing. I've got friends that are now have a role in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and that's super exciting for them. You know, we've got a pathway athlete, Lily, from Wasps, who's one of the baton bearers. You know, and I've seen on Twitter there's so many other things, but that's what it's about, right? It's about inspiring us to be all those roles for beyond. And I think just know that in the next 10 years, we are looking to, you know, be bigger, better and beyond. And hopefully, you know, one day the VNSL does professionalise. And I'd really know that internally we are hoping, and it'll be in a few years' time, you know, what a great thing for us as a sport to want to become. And that's only going to have so much impact on the bit below, which has to keep catching up, you know. And yes, I do look at the other countries as well, and I do look at what they're doing and what other sports are doing, you know, and seeing, okay, this is our niche. We do have a lot of niches in our sport, and we should be really proud of that. So, you know, what else can we put into the cooking pot, if you like, to make us even spicier? That's what how can we be even spicier, you know? So yeah.
No, I love that. And I think the growth in the men's side is something as well that we've been really seeing that's so positive for the game. And I'm conscious of time, and we've kept you chatting for a while here, Sheonah. So I'll just go on to our rapid fire questions before we close. So first of all, from the England futures for 2022-2023, who is one person in particular that we should keep an eye on?
Oh gosh, so many, right? One person, rapid fire. Okay, let's just say Jada Pekova, because she's in my mind. Yeah, I mean, you'll see her over the next couple of years, 100%. And let's just see how she grows and develops, especially as a circle defender, because that's the hot topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So who are these next circle defenders coming through? So yeah, let's go Jada Pekova.
Yeah, love that. We love her. We spotted her at, was it the MPL, Luce?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
The MPL last summer against Stars. We were like, oh, that kid's got something. Yeah, we love her.
I remember that name.
Next one, trick question. Will England win the Commonwealth Games this summer?
Yes, 100%.
Of course.
I don't even need a breath. Yeah, especially looking at how they're, you know, you've got Joe and Helen in Suncorp. They are all playing super amazing. So, yeah, I feel like this is Joe's best year I've seen her play. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Gold all the way. Yeah.
Defo. And finally, if you could make an all-star netball team of other coaches, who would you pick for your team?
Oh, my
this
God.
is probably a bit mean for a rapid
all
fire.
7? Oh, gosh. I mean, I'd have Tracy and Karen in there, 100%.
Yeah.
Like they've got psychic powers between them. I can't have Tamsin, can I? I'm trying to think of them all now.
Yeah, you can have Tamsin.
Have Tamsin.
I'll have Tamsin in there. I'd have, oh my God, I can't think of them all.
JT, bit of Jess.
Yeah, but she's a shooter too. There's so many shooters and attackers, isn't there? So, there's so many of them. I mean, I know Sam Bird back in the day, she was a centre wing attack. Let's put her in there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, all of them. And just maybe we should play versatility with them. And
that's a great shout.
Right? Why don't we just play versatility netball, fast five? Yeah.
Fast fives.
And Mel Mansfield, I know she was pretty good in her day as well. So.
That's got to be like a charity match, surely, to get all the Super League coaches in.
How we did it before at test series at time where, oh my God, Jennifer Saunders, when she took that amazing shot.
At the World Cup, was it?
Absolutely fantastic. Comment release. We've got to do that again. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Let's get you two make that happen, right?
Watch this space.
One team. That's just, let's go with that. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Sheonah. It's been such a pleasure to chat to you. I am absolutely buzzing with the possibility and the potential in this space. It's been so exciting. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, what a cracking interview. I feel so inspired. Like I'm literally buzzing with the potential and the future for development and, our players coming through that pathway. Like I feel like we're in a really strong position as a netballing nation. Before we wrap up, it's time to take a look ahead to the next week of matches, round 18, inexplicably, of the Vitality Netball Superleague. This year, we've teamed up with Sideline TV to pick our showdown of the week, highlighting 2 key players who we can't wait to see go head-to-head. What are we looking at this week, Luce?
Well, last week's one was a cracker, the Qtr Time on Shaquanda Green Knoll. And this week we're looking at the Mavs versus Thunder game and specifically Ellie Cardwell on Jodie Gibson.
Ooh, spicy.
So we know this is a super important game for Mavs and every game is important for them now. We know also how dominant Cardwell is for Thunder, and from a Mavs perspective, they've just got to do something about shutting her down. She's instrumental. Gibson will track you all day long. She wears players down, but Cardwell is in the form of her life, so it is going to be a pretty tough outing. Thunder have actually scored the most goals in the league by a very significant margin and are averaging 70 goals per game, and a large majority of these are Cardwell. She's actually 4th in total for the number of goals scored.
Sorry, so for Mavs, averaging 70 goals per game? That's disgusting.
Sorry, I realised I just skipped over that like it was completely nothing. But that is seriously what they're doing.
That is gross.
Yeah. And for Mavs, it's about that combination with Gibson and Quashie, which I think has really been growing. And the work that Jodie does out the front really means that Raz can come out and fly on those balls. And they have actually conceded the 2nd lowest number of goals in the league behind London Pulse.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I think you bang on. I think it's going to be actually the pairings, the Gibson Quashie pairing and the Mvula Cardwell pairing.
Yeah.
Almost more than the individual players. It's going to be really intriguing to see.
Well, that's because they have such good units. These teams, they're not just good individual players like you see in some teams. They're actually really good units who've played together and are really solid.
Yeah, you're spot on. Let us know what you guys think by heading to our socials, and don't forget to tag @sideline.tv.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Qtr Time. We can't wait to bring you even more netball chat and a wrap up of round 18 next week.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media @Qtr Time Pod for the latest netball updates. Do get involved in the conversation online by letting us know what you thought of the matches this weekend and which players stood out for you.
And your 3-word summaries, if you have them.
Yes, we love them.
Yeah, we love hearing those. We would also really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review, as it helps other people to find the podcast. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please let us know, and do spread the word with your netball pals so even more people can get involved. If you don't enjoy listening to the podcast, please don't let us know. And don't forget to check out our partners Carbon Jacked and take advantage of the exclusive Netball Pod 30% discount on their memberships. Take care, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.